Welcome back to our YouTube channel, ladies and gentlemen. We are looking at the aftermath of the Saba chaos that we witnessed yesterday. We really want to condemn the use of excessive force on innocent protesters, but we must also condemn goons that invaded people's property. What is enshrined in our constitution has never been, will never be, and is not carrying weapons and storming and invading people's businesses. That is wrong. That is wrong, and we must condemn it. Now, I know businessmen and women are counting losses. Parents are also mourning the deaths of their loved ones, youth that were killed yesterday very unnecessarily. The police could easily apprehend those who are demonstrating. At some point, the police were seen provoking innocent demonstrators. But ladies and gentlemen, there is something that has come up. Nation media is establishing and revealing some shocking scenes that the government was using expired tear gas on demonstrators. And in this video, I want us to look at that because we are also going to look at the effect of expired tear gas on human health. We are also going to try and establish whether this is punishable under the international law, because this is just unacceptable. And we also want to try and establish whether a particular group, a particular supporters, a particular ethnic group was being targeted, by the use of the expired tear gas. And I will also tell you that what goes around always comes around, because there are people who rejoiced when certain quarters of supporters were being persecuted using the same. Kindly subscribe to our channel, click the notification bell. Please don't forget to like and share our videos. Ladies and gentlemen, kindly listen to this, and you will agree with me that we need to intensify the calls for one term against this government.
Guys, if you are wondering what is happening along Thika Road, my colleague David Mudoka is here, and he's been camping here since morning.
Yeah.
What has been happening?
In fact, we've been camping here together since morning. And right now we're standing at the middle of the road. You rarely do that on a normal day. So this tells you today is a special day.
And on Thika Road.
Exactly, on Thika Road. So this is Saba. And this turned into a battleground. It's no longer as the super highway that you know. We've seen all morning police officers engaging demonstrators who are trying to access Kamakunji grounds in the CBD in running battles as they fire tear gas canisters at them. And so that is the situation. Right now, there's a bit of calm, and we are even able to actually speak.
Yeah, and talking of tear gas canisters, we've established something. Will you show this, starting with the metallic one?
Oh, this one?
With this one.
Actually, Leon showed me something that I didn't want to believe. That we are consuming expired tear gas, not just by a year or months, but by almost 2 years. So this one says EY0923. So basically this means expired year, September 2023.
And
that's what happened.
And it's the same with this one, which means they are from the same batch.
So basically, yeah, this is the same batch.
So, and I also wanted to establish the manufacturer. So I went looking, and we found the manufacturer.
Yeah.
Would you kindly read?
Made in China. So these are tear gas canisters coming all the way from the east.
Yes.
And they are expired.
So basically, if it's a bit salty, but trust me, there are side effects of tear gas to very many people.
Indeed.
To expectant women,
children,
to people who are having breathing problems, people who use inhalers and depend on them.
Absolutely.
We just urge you to be careful and cautious wherever, if you're out there, wherever you're going, just take good care of yourself.
Indeed.
Yes, and otherwise, David will be here. He'll be giving you updates on NTV. And Keep It Nation also. We have a live blog over there that will keep you updated by every step of the way and every minute. Thank you.
Peace.
So if you look at the video there, the video is yesterday. That was 7th of July, Saba-Saba. So this is not an old video. You know, sometimes people send to us some, clips that have expired, just like the tear gas. And sometimes it is difficult even to verify. So sometimes we even run, into problems when someone calls you and tells you, that is an old video, but we don't do that intentionally. So ladies and gentlemen, the police yesterday was caught red-handed using the expired tear gas. And I want us to go straight away. But before that, I just want to say that the fact that this was found in Thika superhighway could also mean that the Ruto administration was targeting Rigathi Gachagua supporters. And I will tell you why. So I want us to interrogate 3 things before we get to the effects of expired tear gas on human beings, and we go straight to trying and look at what the international law under the UN states. Number 1, the tear gas expired in September 2023. You cannot imagine, 2 years down the line, the same tear gas is being used. This is not the first time we hear of expired tear gas. The other time, it was the water in the water cannons that is being used to disperse crowds. We also established that it was an expired one. So this one, number 1, expired 2 years ago. Number 2, it came from China. Sometimes there's a joke in our country that China dumps the 3rd-hand or 5th-hand materials in our country. Which regime exactly procured the tear gas? Something tells me that this cannot be the government under Uhuru as the president. I have a feeling that this was Ruto administration. And the fact that it was expiring in September last year, this must have been the tear gas that, were procured during the Azimio protest. I remember some leaders used to tell Raila and the supporters that they have enough tear gas, and they dared Raila to take his supporters to the streets because they were saying, we have enough. At some point, I remember Moses Kuria, even our cousin now, Rigathi Gachagua, used to really assure Kenyans that they had enough tear gas to contain the supporters of Azimio when they were, running against the government. So this must have been procured in 2022 in preparation for controversy and to counter the Azimio supporters. There is a possibility that the tear gas was given for free by the Chinese government. Remember the way Russia gave us fertilizer to give free, donate freely to our farmers, and we ended up blending and selling it to our farmers. I have a feeling that this could have been donated free. Why? Maybe the Chinese government wanted to establish a strong relationship because they know Ruto was aligned. They know that Ruto was aligned to the Western machination. So what they would usually do is to look at the tear gas that is short expiry. Marketers and salespeople understand. When they go to supermarkets, you know what they call FIFO. First in, is it first in, first out? That the goods that have been on shelf for some times will be in front, and the ones that have been produced, the new ones, will go behind. So the Chinese government must have decided to give us this because it was short expiry. Sometimes, even in the supermarkets, we'll realize that when a product is short expiry or is nearing expiry date, then they will reduce the price, or you will be told buy one get two free, buy one get one free. So there's a possibility that this was donated freely. You know, Africa and especially Kenya loves free things. There is that possibility. Number two, maybe we bought this from China, and because the expiry date was nearing, or it was short expiring, the price, they sell it to us at a lower price. The third one could be they were just procured long time ago, but they stayed in the artillery there because there was no use. Remember, after Raila joined hands with William Ruto, hakukuwa na maandamano, and maybe when they procured the tear gas, they thought hizi tutatumia kupiga Azimio supporters, and so when they shook hands, hakukuwa na use. So that could be the possibility, but the bottom line is you cannot use expired tear gas on human beings. Let us go straight to try and look at the effect so that we see what are the effects of using expired tear gas. I'm not a medic, by the way, but I was trying just to look at the effect. Now, I just want to read that exposure to tear gas agents may produce numerous short-term and long-term health effects. One of them being development of respiratory illness, ile ya kupumua, severe eye injuries, wakati inaingia kwa macho, and diseases such as traumatic optic neuropathy. Hapo sasa nimepotea, like I told you, I'm not a medic. That diseases such as traumatic optic neuropathy, keratitis, glaucoma, and cataracts. It goes on to say dermatitis, damage of cardiovascular and gastrointestinal systems. I think hiyo ni ile ya tumbo hata kwa moyo, in your heart. So there is a very big effect when someone inhales tear gas. And in fact, by the way, what I've just read is normal tear gas. So you can imagine that those are effects of inhaling just normal tear gas. What about when the tear gas is expired? It means, when you breathe in, that tear gas. For example, those who are in town today, they will tell you that or Mombasa Road, or Thika Road, or Kitengela and Kiserian, where there was that excessive use of tear gas, it's still choking to date. This morning or this afternoon, the effect of the odor, that smell, is still choking. They have running noses. They will tell you. So you are a passive taker of that tear gas. Even if you are not there during the demonstration, a day or 2 days later, you will realize that there is that effect. And that's why we have a feeling that maybe the use of this expired tear gas extends. That's why it's so choking. Those are the effects. So you are not there when the tear gas was being thrown at people, but 2 days later you breathe it as a passive breather. There's that active breather, the one taking it immediately when it is thrown. Then you who is not even there, you're also taking this. I'm also imagining that, like yesterday, that was in Kitengela, I think, where police decided to throw tear gas inside. That was Rongai or Kitengela. Inside someone's house. Someone who is not even going, is not concerned about the demonstrations. Ameamua kukaa kwa nyumba yake, lakini bado anatumia the tear gas. Pregnant women, children, people with breathing problems, when they continue to breathe this, ladies and gentlemen, you understand where I'm coming from. Number two, what about the UN or in the international law? And I was trying to look at this, and this is what is being said. There is a body called Chemical Weapons Convention. It is the body that controls or regulates the use of chemicals and weapons during war and things like demonstrations. So this is what it says in summary, that the Chemical Weapons Convention does not prohibit the use of riot control agents for law enforcement purposes. Ya kwamba they really don't have a problem when the police use tear gas. There's a lacuna. However, this is what it says. However, the use of tear gas in law enforcement must adhere to international human rights law. That is where the catch is. This means that the use must be necessary. And I want you to get that, necessary. Before the police decides to use tear gas, they must establish that indeed it was necessary to use that tear gas. Number two, it must be proportionate and non-discriminatory. You cannot go, for example, to Kitui and you use a particular form of tear gas, then when you get to Nyeri or Rift Valley, you use another one. It must be proportionate, and you cannot be using a lot of tear gas on people who are unarmed. They're just singing Ruto must go one time. So what happened yesterday goes against the international human rights law, because it is established that when you use the tear gas and all these chemicals, it must adhere to the international human rights standards. And so this is something that is punishable, if you ask me. Ladies and gentlemen, having looked at that, I now understand why Murkomen and the government tried to ban the media from airing and capturing and even reporting events during Maandamano. Because, for example, why not for the nation media, the very sharp reporters there, we wouldn't have known. People are running and many media stations are just looking at, the running battles. But these two decided to look at the expiry date because they suspect that this government is very mischievous. It explains why the government does not want the media to cover demonstrations. Number two, I still repeat that there is need for the international community. There is need for the international court, the International Criminal Court, to come and investigate this. Because, you can easily downplay the use of expired tear gas, but the effects are gradual. Those people with breathing problems, pregnant women, children who inhaled that tear gas, even in town, as people walk around, this will have some long-term effect on them. Why? Because the government decides to use, they know very well that we should use the right tear gas on people. And I'm also looking at the IPOA, a very fake body that should be disbanded, because they take a lot of money pretending to be investigating police brutality and excessive force and illegal force on people, yet they are one and the same thing. There's nothing they can do. As long as this thing is still funded from the government, from the president, as long as the president is the one who will still appoint the chairperson, it's a toothless dog. There's nothing it can do. Just like any other independent institutions, Parliament has been captured, the DCI, the NIS, everything. The IPOA is also exposed. They will do nothing. If we had a very active and independent parliament, then the Parliamentary Committee on Security or Parliamentary Committee on security. If we had an independent parliament, then this should have been investigated. But then how can they do that when most of them have been compromised? When most of them are dancing to the executive tune, they cannot investigate this. In fact, some of them are rejoicing. And you know, one funny thing, we have fallen into Kasongo's trap. Kasongo is really using the rivalry between some two communities to stay in power. You know, when you listen to people argue, you know, they say people from Mount Kenya were rejoicing when there's a new supporters, especially from Luo, were being beaten, they were being retrieved from their houses. Now it is our turn to rejoice. Let me tell you, the fact that the people of Mount Kenya, some of them, by the way, not all of them, were rejoicing because of some cheap politics, has never made the illegal and excessive use of brutal force from the police any better. It is illegal, it is wrong. Just the same way, those who are now rejoicing when some of the people from Mount Kenya are being beaten are also falling into the same trap. It is wrong. It is against the law to use excessive force against any community. That's why I'm saying that we need to really be our brother's keeper. When you see a Kikuyu or the rights of a Kikuyu or a Kamba, a Meru, a Kisii, when their rights are being violated, please don't think that because you are in government you are any better. Because what goes round comes around. Speak against it so that when they fall on you, someone will also speak against it. That's why I was saying that the people who rejoiced when the Azimio supporters were being butchered are now feeling the pain. I remember what Orengo said, that governments eat their own children. But I believe that we've really learned. And I like the fact that there are people who have never subjected themselves to be separated, to be divided along tribal cocoons. The last one, ladies and gentlemen, I still want to repeat. If all this will not make you angry, if what is happening will not make you have the urgent urge to remove Ruto from power, of course, through the constitutional means, if this will not make you yearn for the day we will go to the ballot and vote against the Ruto regime, then something is wrong with you. And because of this, I support the one-term calls. Because of this, I support the Ruto must go calls. What is so difficult in just using the normal tear gas? What is so difficult in, look at the tear gas that has expired, dispose them off. Because if we go this way, very soon you will realize that even in our hospitals we are using expired medicine. Ladies and gentlemen, we really need to condemn this, but the independent institutions that are supposed to look at such the independent institutions that are supposed to help us check the government, please do so, because we are talking about lives of people are at stake. I don't know what you think, but Ruto should be a one-term president. The entire UDA government must be a one-term president. Be very careful when you rejoice when others are being persecuted, because it will finally come back to you. I don't know what you think, but that's my take. Kindly subscribe to the channel, like and share videos.